Join the conversation
with Richard Dean, Brandy Scott and Tom Urquhart.
You're listening to the Business Breakfast on Dubai Eye on One.
So it's fair to say it has been a pretty good year for people working in the property sector. Dubai recorded a 37,537 sales transactions worth over 88 billion dirhams. That's just in the first 8 months of this year, up 22.61% compared with the whole of last year. That's according to the listings portal Property Finder. Meanwhile, average residential prices in Abu Dhabi also increased by 2.2% in the year till August. That's according to a CBRE report. The UAE capital registered over 16 billion dirhams of property transactions during the third quarter of 2021. But we have just seen the price fall for the first time in a year. Now, that is despite a record number of transactions, but prices have fallen. So is this a blip or is it a big deal? Let's find out. Joined on the line now by Zan Chochinki, the COO of Property Monitor. How are you, Jan? Good to see you.
Very good. Morning. How are you guys?
Hi, Zan. Lovely to have you also joining us on Microsoft Teams for our Dubai One viewers. So how much have prices fallen?
So it's a little bit of a surprise for some, but prices have fallen. So since the turn of the recovery, so a year ago, end of November last year, that's when we started to see prices appreciate. They went on to appreciate month on month, and over the last, say, 3 or 4 months, it started to taper down. Last month, recording the first decline of just under 1%, 0.99% for the month.
So I'm super confused because I've been reading reports for the last sort of month or so suggesting that the property market's properly rebounded and we're set to see more increases over the next 18 months. What's changed? What's gone wrong?
So that's still on track, right? Where every market you're going to have when it recovers, it's going to have this pace of recovery that goes up rather quickly, and you're going to have some tapering off, some slowing down, and then ultimately month-on-month growth, or that trajectory of growth, but with some blips, some ups and some downs there. So the market is still strong, and we do anticipate the market to go on to appreciate for another, it could be 18, 36 months, because the price appreciation pace has slowed. If it was still going 2%, 2.5% month on month, that's something that can start to run away and is cause for concern. So if we look at last month, record transaction numbers, over 7,000 transactions in November, the strongest November ever on record, and the 9th strongest transaction month out of any month since data has been kept.
I mean, that really is staggering. What is driving this demand at the moment?
So this is where the shift is happening. Where the recovery initially started, it was in the resale market of completed properties, or even developers that had completed properties but still had some on their books and were selling them off. Specifically villas and townhouses, that's where the initial growth came from. That's where things really drove. What's happened now is there's just not enough inventory available in that market that people want. A lot of it is due to pricing. Prices have gone up so quickly that buyers just don't want to chase another 10% on last sale. And what developers have done is they've seen this coming, they've stepped into the gap, and they've started launching new projects. So you've seen some really big ones catering to that demand. So Majid Al Futtaim with Talal Al Gaf, a couple of new projects there, Emaar and Ranches 3 in the Valley, and then Damac with a massive new project coming on, the Lagoons. Their first phase alone, one of 8 phases, had 900 units in it. So in the last month or 2 months alone, we've seen about 2,000 new villas and townhouses come to market. And that's what's starting to come through the transactions now. That's where we've seen that big jump in transactions last month. Off-plan transactions, they jumped over 50% last month, where resale transactions only grew 20%.
Many of us here in the UAE don't choose to buy. Many of us rent. What's the deal with rental yields at the moment? How much is it costing?
So they've fallen. They've been steadily falling since about mid last year, where they were at about 6.5%. Now they're down to about 5.68%. They were holding firm the last couple of months around 5.7. This isn't to say that yields aren't still good. It's just that rents aren't appreciating at the same pace that property prices are. So the rental market's still strong, still buoyant, very competitive in the villa and townhouse segment. The apartments, there's still some flexibility there.
How about this latest Omicron wave? Do you guys predict any issues, any waves, any ripples as a consequence of that Omicron wave?
Short answer, no.
I'm loving how buoyant everyone who works in property at the moment is. It's literally, it's boom time for you guys.
See, I'm the one that's kind of agnostic to it. I look at the data side of it, and unless something stops people coming here, unless we have lockdowns again and the ability to transact goes away, I don't see the market changing. Even if we do, the government put in measures to transact digitally, transact online. I don't see that side slowing down unless it completely runs away and they have to close borders and really restrict traffic. That's the only thing that we could see. I don't foresee that happening.
So is it a case of steady as you go, or do you think that once these sort of massive property developments, once those properties come to market, could we see a glut? Do you think, I mean, we all know that especially the Dubai property market does seem to swing quite wildly between two extremes. Do you see that coming, or do you think the market has finally matured?
It's maturing still. I think developers have really learned over the last 3 years. I think you're going to see a lot more thought about launches coming out, really analysing the market. And they come to us for the data to analyse the market. So we are seeing it. They're looking at where the demand is, what's selling. They're not just launching a project because they think it's a good idea. So I think you will see developers continue to build. They'll continue to build very strategically. The thing that we really need to look at, though, is that resale side of the market, the completed properties, the end users, the people like you and me, the investors that are out there that have one or two properties. That's where we really want to see that side grow. And right now, the price divide is there and things aren't transacting, that's slowing down. So we just need to see a little bit of a change in that. And I think going forward, it's going to be a long road to recovery.
And have the developers noted the fact that there's more enthusiasm for people to live in villas and to have more outside space than perhaps they might have in the past as a consequence of the pandemic? Are we seeing a different style of development as a consequence?
Certainly. You've got developers looking at switching towards either villas and townhouses in smaller ones or larger master communities. The new apartment buildings you're seeing come to market aren't necessarily new. They've been something that have been on the plans. The land's been acquired. Everything's been there. Those ones are coming up. You don't see too many developers going, right, let's go out and buy a plot of land and build an apartment, unless it's one of the major quasi-government developers. So yes, developers have responded. They are looking very strategically at what to build, where to build, and also at what price to build at.
Really, really good to have you on the line. Thank you so much. Loads of clarity there, loads of facts for us to get our teeth into. Azan Chochinki, the COO of Property Monitor. Fab to speak to you this morning.
It's interesting as well, and I like the optimism, and it's good as well. I mean, it's very easy to get bogged down into a pessimistic point of view, given the sort of changing face and the policies world over. But just a little word. Look at what's happening in South Africa at the moment. You know, we're talking about rising cases the world over. South Africa, the first one to recognise Omicron, have seen it level out over the last few days and not escalate. So there is light at the end of the tunnel, and I think we take that optimism onwards. Talking of taking it onwards, plenty more to come right here on Dubai Eye 103.8 on The Business Breakfast.
There's more.